Yeah, that's me right now. The woman who blew up her perfect little life. For what exactly? For a handful of stolen moments, a rush of feeling alive, a desperate attempt to be seen. I'm Valerie. I'm 39 years old. I never thought I'd be that woman, the one everyone whispers about behind her back at PTA meetings or sends pitying texts to. The one who lost everything because she couldn't resist the wrong temptation. It all started so innocently, or at least it felt that way at first. Maxwell and I had been married for 15 years, with twin girls who had just turned 12, bright, curious, the light of our lives. Maxwell was the kind of husband who seemed dependable in all the ways that mattered on paper. He was stable, steady, a high-functioning accountant with a predictable routine. The kind of man I'd wanted when we first met, the kind of man I'd thought I could grow old with. But somewhere along the way, I started to feel invisible. Maxwell would come home from his office, give me a quick kiss on the cheek, ask what was for dinner, then retreat to his home office where he'd spend hours poring over spreadsheets until bedtime. The same routine, day after day, month after month. I was like a ghost in my own home, present but unseen. I kept wondering, is this all there is between us? I was dying inside while wearing a mask of contentment. I smiled when the girls ran into the room. I nodded at Maxwell's jokes. I cooked, cleaned, did everything a good wife and mother is supposed to do. But inside, I felt hollow. Then Ryan came along. Ryan started at my marketing firm 6 months earlier, tall, confident, easy to talk to. He actually listened to me. Everything Maxwell wasn't. Where Maxwell barely remembered our anniversary without a calendar reminder, Ryan noticed the small things. The way I liked my coffee black, how I preferred jazz over pop, the stress wrinkles forming at the corners of my eyes. Ryan would bring me coffee in the mornings, not because I asked, but because he remembered. When was the last time Maxwell noticed anything about me beyond the surface? Those little gestures, morning coffee, lunchtime chats, became lifelines. I told myself, he's just a friend. Even as I wore extra makeup, picked out my best outfits for work, and found excuses to linger near his desk. The first time we kissed was after the company summer party. Everyone was a little tipsy, and Ryan walked me to my car under the glow of street lamps. I told myself it was a mistake, that it wouldn't happen again. But it did. Again and again. Soon, we were meeting at his apartment during client meetings I'd sneak onto my calendar. The thrill of secrecy made me feel alive for the first time in years, like I was someone worth wanting, not just a glorified house manager whose husband was too busy to look up from his phone. For 6 months, I lived a double life. Meeting Ryan whenever I could, then coming home to Maxwell and the girls pretending everything was normal. The lies became second nature. Working late. Maxwell would ask, and I'd nod, texting Ryan under the table. Sometimes, I'd pick fights with Maxwell just so I could storm out and meet Ryan. I twisted Maxwell's words to make him the villain, convincing myself I was justified. The mental gymnastics I performed to keep my secret alive, you wouldn't believe. Ryan knew I was married, but he didn't seem to care. That should have been my first red flag, but I was too far gone to see it. You deserve to be happy, he'd say, and I'd swallow the words like candy. He listened to me complain about Maxwell, nodding as I painted myself the wronged party in a marriage that had long since withered. The women at work who gave me side eyes when Ryan and I returned from lunch together? Jealous, I told myself. If they had boring husbands like mine, they'd understand. New Year's Eve 2019. That's when everything blew up. Maxwell and I were hosting our annual neighborhood party. I'd been texting Ryan all day, planning to sneak away for a midnight kiss while Maxwell was busy bartending. Ryan's messages kept flooding in, how much he wished he was with me instead of at his family gathering. I was glowing from the attention, floating around our kitchen arranging appetizer trays. Maxwell noticed my good mood and tried to hug me from behind. I flinched, mumbling something about my hair being perfect for the party. The hurt in his eyes didn't register with me. That's how disconnected I'd become. The party was in full swing when my phone buzzed again. I slipped into our bedroom to check it, giggling at Ryan's suggestive message. I didn't hear Maxwell come in until he stood behind me. "Who's making you smile like that?" His voice was strange. I fumbled, nearly dropping my phone. It was all the confirmation he needed. He snatched it from my hand and scrolled through months of messages, not just the sexy ones, but the complaints about Maxwell, the lies, the cruel jokes at his expense. Everything laid bare in one horrible moment. The party raged downstairs while my marriage died upstairs. Maxwell didn't yell. He didn't throw things. He just looked at me like I was a stranger, a terrible calm settling over him. "How long?" he asked. When I tried to deflect, he cut me off. "Don't lie to me." "Not anymore." I told him 6 months. His eyes closed briefly as if he'd absorbed a physical blow. Then he handed me my phone and walked out. I followed, panicking, trying to grab his arm. "It's not what you think," I said, though it was exactly what he thought. "It doesn't mean anything," I lied, but it had meant everything to me. Maxwell went downstairs and calmly asked everyone to leave. Our friends were confused, but something in his expression made them gather their coats without question. I stood frozen at the top of the stairs, watching him apologize and invent an excuse about a family emergency. Always so considerate, even while his world crumbled. After everyone left, he packed an overnight bag and left without a word. That night, I called and texted him obsessively, not because I was sorry, but because I was terrified of consequences catching up to me. The girls came home from a sleepover the next day and asked where their dad was. That's when reality hit. What was I supposed to tell them? That mommy had been cheating on daddy? That I'd blown up their world for some office fling? So, I lied. Told them daddy had a last-minute business trip. When they asked why he hadn't said goodbye, I made up more lies: an early flight, didn't want to wake them, he'd call soon. Each lie was another brick in the wall I was building around myself. For 3 weeks, Maxwell didn't come home. He texted the girls daily but ignored me. I cycled between anger, how dare he abandon us? Panic, what if he never comes back? And self-pity. Ryan called incessantly, but I ignored him. Somehow, the excitement was gone. He wasn't the escape anymore. At work, whispers started. Someone had seen Maxwell leave our party upset. The judgmental looks from coworkers were unmistakable. My assistant gave me that side eye that screamed, "I know what you did." Then, after 23 days of silence, Maxwell texted me, "We need to talk. Send the girls to your parents for the weekend." Not a request, a command. The man who once asked permission to buy golf clubs was telling me what to do. And the worst part? I was relieved. At least he was willing to talk. At least there was a chance to fix what I destroyed. That Friday, I cleaned like a madwoman. Changed the sheets, bought his favorite beer, wore the perfume he'd given me last Christmas, the one I'd barely acknowledged. I agonized over what to wear: not too sexy, not too casual. I wanted him to remember what he was missing. Jeans and a sweater he'd once said brought out my eyes. I made lasagna, his favorite, as if food could mend a broken marriage. When Maxwell's car pulled in, my heart stopped. He looked different, thinner, maybe, but stronger. He didn't use his key, just knocked on the door like a visitor. When I opened it, I noticed his missing wedding ring, a calculated decision I had made to keep mine on. He walked past without a hug or meeting my eyes. The lasagna went untouched as we moved to the living room. I couldn't bear the silence, so I did what any desperate woman would do. I dropped to my knees, sobbing, begging for forgiveness, promising I'd do anything to fix it. Humiliate me. Punish me. Just don't throw away 15 years. He looked down at me with pity that made me sick. "You shouldn't humiliate yourself," he said quietly. "Get up, Valerie." Not honey or Val, Valerie, like a business associate. When I kept crying, he lifted me onto the couch, then sat opposite me. The distance between us was a chasm. "I've been talking to divorce lawyers," he said, steady. My sobbing stopped. Divorce. It came faster than I imagined. I'd expected angry shouting, blame, maybe even violence. Instead, it was cold and clinical. We split assets, decided on custody, and scheduled a mediation. The girls stayed with their grandparents while the adults fought over a wreckage of a marriage. The social fallout was brutal. Word got around at school, and suddenly, I was that mom, the one who cheated, who broke up a family. The PTA meetings turned into cold arenas. The lunch invitation stopped. The text messages stopped. Maxwell and I rarely spoke except through lawyers. The girls were confused and scared, and I hated myself every time I looked in the mirror. I lost friends. I lost respect. I lost my family. I lost the version of myself I had thought I'd be. Years passed. The divorce finalized. The girls split their time between two homes. Maxwell moved on quickly, engaged 6 months later. I stayed single, working late nights, trying to patch up my fractured soul with therapy and self-help books. But the ghosts never left. Sometimes, I'd sit alone in my apartment and replay moments over and over. Was it worth it? Could I have saved my marriage? Should I have stayed invisible instead of chasing a fleeting spark? Sometimes, I'm still that woman who feels invisible. Sometimes, I miss the comfort of pretending. And yet, I'm learning to live with the choices I made. Learning to forgive myself, not because what I did was right, but because I need to survive. Yeah, that's me right now. A woman broken, a woman learning to piece herself back together. Maybe someday, the whispers will stop. Maybe someday, I'll stop hearing the silence where love used to be. But for now, I'm here, imperfect, damaged, but still standing.